freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your DFS preview for this week's Wyndham Championship. Joining me to break it all down, Sia Nejad is here. Good day, Sia.
Good day. It was a bad week, though, to be on Straka or Lucas Glover. Listen, we were on Lee Hodges to a large degree as well, but what a crazy week that was. And I'm just curious, Rick, I don't think we're going to see more of the same this week, but certainly everybody's in play, right?
Yeah, we were just having actually a really nice conversation before we went hot about kind of the carnage that was last week at the 3M Open. And I was describing that I thought that was kind of the perfect storm, right? You get a bunch of the guys at the top coming back from a major championship that was overseas. You get guys that had a lot of question marks, and you go to a golf course where it's already pretty chaotic and there's a lot of water lurking all over the place. And it ended up being, I don't know, almost half the guys over $7,500 missed the cut. We were talking that the optimal lineup was $44,800. Keith Mitchell was the most expensive golfer in the optimal lineup, $8,600. So yeah, that's about as low as you're going to get in terms of optimals. I don't think we're going to get something similar to that this week.
No, that's fair enough. I will say this. I do think there are similar questions, particularly at the top and even in the 9K range. So to me, if you end up leaving money on the table, like I sent a tweet out earlier today where I just the first lineup I made, just for fun, just for, entertainment purposes, mostly, I had a lot left over. So, I mean, I do think there's enough in the 7K range and the 8K range where you could play a really balanced lineup and end up having a lot of money left over.
The other thing to consider is just by the nature of this being the final event in the regular season, the best players in the field who are playing are probably playing for a reason. Maybe they haven't been playing particularly well and they're trying to improve their positioning. Maybe they're trying to get into the playoffs. That's why you're not seeing the top 20 guys in the FedEx Cup standings here, guys that have had great years, is they don't need to play this event. So I also think just the nature of this spot on the calendar, this spot on the schedule, lends to guys at the top of the pricing who have questions about them.
Absolutely. Which, you got to ask yourself, are they going to answer their questions or those questions at the Wyndham? I mean, in all likelihood, more often than not, they're not going to, because they are struggling. So you have to make, especially at the top, you really have to make the right choices.
Before we jump into the golf course, the field, everything that comes after that, I'll remind people the fan vote for the one and done is now live. The link to get your vote in is in the description. That one and done is tightening quickly, and we are entering big purse season. I think it's only 1.3 million this week, Sia, but next week, 3.6, the week after, 3.6, the week after that, 7.6. So everyone very, very live, including those pesky fans, to take down the one and done.
Yeah, I've saved a couple of bullets in the chamber for the playoff season. So we'll see how that works out for me. But it's been a bad run for me. I mean, it was a good run, but then it was a bad run over the last few weeks where I'm just striking out on some of these lower level tournaments, and including some of the higher end tournaments, of course, the Open Championship. I don't think I did too well there either. So, but I'm looking forward to a late run. A lot of money at stake.
Mark has been slumping, and none of us have taken advantage.
Right.
It's quite annoying.
And the thing is, these lesser events, when you have a guy finish like 10th or 8th, and I say lesser, I mean non-designated. I mean, what do you get? Like $150,000, and like that doesn't do anything really.
Yeah, I had Emiliano Grillo last week, and it's like, yeah, $200,000 is not going to cut it. I need more. I need millions. The golf course this week, Sedgefield Country Club. And Troy, if you could share my screen, that'd be, thank you much. My website, rickrungood.com. We've played at Sedgefield every year dating back to 2008. So kind of a contrast to what we talked about last week with a golf course that only had previously 4 years of history. Also a golf course that is generally pretty chaotic. Sedgefield, 15 years of history, tends to be a little stickier. The model loves accuracy, keeping it in play off the tee. What do you assess as some of the maybe skill sets to get yourself to the top of the leaderboard this week?
Yeah, I mean, accuracy is definitely a thing here. I mean, the question I have when it comes to that is, we know there are going to be guys that really hit it a ways off the tee that are some inaccurate, that are going to club down a little bit. So I want to look at accuracy, but I don't want to be so invested in it where I'm ignoring guys who like guys that come to mind just right off the top of my head, like Thomas Dietrich, Nikolai Højgaard, who have been dialed in on approaching with the putter, but are not really, they're just generally not accurate. Certainly haven't been lately with the driver. I don't know that I'm going to penalize them too much. I do want to take some risks with guys like that because I don't think they're going to carry a ton of ownership necessarily. So, I mean, again, I'm looking at accuracy, but approach is obviously going to be a big deal. I'm actually giving a bump up to putting more than I normally do. It's something I'm definitely noting for the Wyndham Championship. So for me, it's approach, it's putting, it's accuracy, but I'm really just, I don't think I'm going to be factoring it in quite as much as maybe some other people. And of course, my global metrics that I look at on RRG, like weighted tee to green, things of that nature, I'm going to be looking at that.
It is an astute observation about, okay, you know, what does accuracy really mean in a week like this? So on a golf course that certainly skews shorter, 7,100 yards on a par 70. It's the same as when it's like, oh my gosh, the water's always on the right, and this guy has a big right rough tendency. And it's like, well, yes, but you know, what is his tendency when trouble is on the right? What is the driving accuracy when clubbing down is available to you? So what I just kind of punched in on the Holy Grail here was, you know, last 4 years of golf courses that are 71, 150 yards and shorter, essentially the shorter courses on the PGA Tour schedule. I mean, let me know if any names here surprise you, and I'll just go through the ones that have kind of a large sample size. Justin Thomas, Hideki Matsuyama, Russell Henley, Brendan Todd, Sung Jae Im. Like, that kind of passes the sniff test.
It does. But I'll say this, just to counterpoint that. I mean, Billy Horschel, not a guy that's super accurate off the tee. Pretty great success at the Wyndham.
Sure.
So, yeah. I mean, that's just one. I'm like cherry picking, obviously. But there are, listen, like those are the prototypes. That, like, don't get me wrong. I guess my larger point is don't exclude certain guys if you think they're going to be clubbing down and therefore generally in the fairway. And if they're dialed in on approach and with the putter, I mean, that's definitely something to look at.
Yeah, and as with any week, you know, even if we knew for a fact one specific stat like driving accuracy was going to be the most important, the top of the leaderboard would not be Russell Henley, Brendan Todd, Zach Blair, Brian Stewart, right? Like there would be, it might skew more towards those guys being like up into the top 30, but there are lots of ways to get it done on a golf course.
Right. And that's why, you know, it's perfect. It's perfect to talk about this when you're talking about it in the context of DFS, because you definitely listen, you might be on some chalky guys this week, but there are going to be some guys that are going to get relatively ignored. And if you pick those guys right, those guys that Rick's referring to that are just going to creep up on the leaderboard, but their stat profile doesn't really suggest that they should, that's how you're going to win a tournament. I think I can, you know, we'll get to the 10K range in a second. I think I can look at some of these names right off the bat and know there's going to be a lot of lineups sort of built the same way, at least at the top. And so just know that going in, that people are going to gravitate to, I mean, spoiler alert, like Russell Henley, Siwoo Kim, who I think is underpriced, Denny McCarthy, who is underpriced. Like there's those guys. I feel like those three specifically, I think a lot of people are going to start their lineups literally with those three guys.
Yes. Let's have that conversation where we go through each one of the pricing tiers. We're going to reset real quick, and we're going to jump into that after a quick word from our partners.
It's time. The best Transformers yet. There you go. Is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
This is going to be fun, man.
Now that's top tier manifestation. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Rated PG-13. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And we're back. Here is the cheat sheet. Sung Jae Im leads the way, $10,800. Hideki Matsuyama, 10.6. Russell Henley, 10.2. And Sam Burns is a flat $10,000. Questions here, Sia. Some with better answers than others. You've already given us a bit of a spoiler alert in terms of Russell Henley. So how does this 10K range break down in your eyes?
So immediately I go to Russell Henley and I say to myself, okay, that seems like a pretty safe play, although you can criticize him. I mean, the putter is certainly a valid criticism, even though, he has turned that around in large part. That there are stretches, including the last two tournaments, where it hasn't been great. But I mean, like, look at the approach numbers. I mean, we know he's going to be accurate, first of all, but look at the approach numbers on top of that. He is going to be putting himself on a course where you can score. He's going to be putting himself in great situations more often than probably, I don't know, 99% of the field, at least in theory. So, I mean, Henley is the one that jumps out to me. When I look at the other three guys, like the other guy, there's two other guys. I'm not going to play Sung Jae, first of all. I mean, certainly not at 10,800, although I don't think pricing really factors in here, because I think you can kind of play whoever you want. I think the pricing is kind of weird, especially when you get to the 8K and 7K range. Some of these guys, you could put 500-600 more and it would make a lot of sense. But my larger point is no Sung Jae, maybe on Hideki, probably not. But Burns, I'm particularly interested in. So for me, Henley for sure is the safe option. I think Burns is really interesting, though, because even though he's one of those guys, Rick, where the accuracy, of course, it's not there, and everybody's going to know that. And his last couple of tournament, or his last tournament at the Open, I believe, it wasn't very good. But he was dialed in on approach prior to that. And we know he's typically dialed in with the putter, which he has been lately as well. I think he's really interesting from a tournament perspective.
I'm hoping someone gives us a little bit of leverage. I think the likely candidate is maybe Hideki, maybe Sam Burns. I think Russell Henley will be pretty popular. The guy who's always the most expensive, I think gets a bump no matter what. And the fact that Sung Jae's been phenomenal around this place is that's out there as well. I'm hoping someone, and if that's Sam Burns, great, gives us like a 12%, crack at this, right? And gives us like a little bit of leverage. I think that Sam Burns, what I've learned about Sam Burns is, these like Parkland style tree lined golf courses, I think are good for him. But I also think that he is talented enough where there's a lot of different styles of golf that he can play when he's at his best. When he's playing well, he can play well at Riviera. He could play well at Harbortown. He could play well at Colonial. He could play well at Muirfield. He could just play well all over the place. And it's just a matter of like, are you going to get a good week out of Sam Burns or not? And that's what I think is the hardest part, as opposed to even what that course fit looks like. Are you at all like, what level of concern do you have knowing that course history around here is fairly sticky? Sung Jae Im has 3 top 10 finishes in his last 4 starts. He's never finished worse than 24th around here. And how do you reconcile that with what we're seeing right now, which is very high bar, maybe the worst golf he's played in his career? I mean, it's a very, very high bar because he's been great, right? But to miss 5 out of his last 9 cuts is very un-Sung Jae-like.
Yeah, it just, as good as the history is, I mean, and, we could talk about Webb Simpson too, although that's a different conversation, obviously.
Yeah.
I can't compare those two. As good as the history is, I've just sort of gotten away from course history a little bit, even though it makes more sense to like really look at course history at Sedgefield. I just don't think I can play Sung Jae. I feel like I was having the same discussion point with you last Monday, and I'm trying to remember who it was at the 3M who had great, maybe it was Tony Finau actually, who had great, and Tony Finau played great. So, I mean, maybe that's sort of a comp, although Tony Finau's form hasn't been quite as bad as Sung Jae's form has been. I think Sung Jae's fine. I personally, I got to fade somebody here, and Sung Jae is giving me all the evidence in the world that he should be the one to fade. But again, I said the same thing about Tony Finau last week, and he played pretty well.
Yeah, but Tony Finau's weird, right? He didn't burn you, but he didn't win you anything.
True.
Right? I mean, he was one of the most expensive golfers, and he finished T7, T10. Like, it's fine if you picked him over Cam Young, awesome. But like he did not break the slate for you. So it is a lot like these guys up here for these price, they have to return you something pretty significant.
Yeah, I mean, he missed 2 out of the last 3 cuts. I suppose the 20th at the Open is actually pretty good considering what his form was. I don't know. I mean, I do think there's upside given his course history, but that would really be the only thing, other than course fit as well. That would be the only thing in his favor. Honestly, when I look at the numbers, Hideki has better numbers than he does. Certainly, like recent form, weight to the green, all that stuff. Like Hideki's still rating out really well. So if it's between those two, I'm actually going to go Hideki.
If you just watch Hideki, or you just kind of, I don't know. You'd think he's having a bad season. He's having like a pretty darn good season, and he's having
That stat profile's amazing.
He's having
Like,
a
look
very
at that.
consistent season, right? You know, he's only missed outside of the Rocket Mortgage missed cut. It's like every finish is 13th to 32nd. The ball striking is back. The putter. I mean, this is pretty vintage Hideki right now. And he's got a bizarre record around Sedgefield. He's got 4 missed cuts and 7 trips, but the other 3 are all top 15 finishes. So it's like feast or famine for him around this place. Yeah, I agree with you. I would prefer Hideki over Sungjae, but I would really prefer just like an 11% owned Sam Burns.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're all in play for me. I'll tell you, when I did that first lineup that I referenced, I didn't take anybody in this range. You know, Henley's fine. I think Hideki and Burns, I think, can go out and win you a tournament, because I don't think either of them are going to be super highly owned. I think Henley's just going to be the one that's going to be like 5-6% more than the other 3, which is kind of funny when you say it out loud, right? Henley more than Burns, Hideki, and Sungjae. Well, that's what it is.
The 9K range is small. Adam Scott, 97. Shane Lowry, 95. Ludwig Aberg, 93. JT Poston, 92. Justin Thomas, 91. And then Siwoo Kim at $9,000 here. I find this to be fascinating and probably where the money will be won, Sia, but we've got to figure out the best way to allocate here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not a huge fan of this entire range, to be honest with you. I mean, Siwoo Kim is the one that sticks out to me. And at 9,000, when you could have priced him at 9,700 and people probably still would have played him, I think he's going to be really, really popular. He makes a lot of sense. And listen, like everything, what we're looking at the Sedgefield history, but recent form and just his history in general here is great. The tee to green, the approach stuff, the accuracy. He really kind of checks all the boxes. So at 9,000, I just think, like in cash games in particular, if you do that kind of thing, and you don't have to fade him just because he's popular in tournaments, but he's the only guy, Rick, that jumps out to me like, yeah, it's going to be hard not to play Siwoo Kim.
Yeah, he'll be super, super popular. I mean, the results around here, the win in 16, he's got 3 other top 5 finishes since then. He, there's a difference between course history and course fit. Even if he never played on this golf course, the things that the model likes for this golf course are like perfect for Siwoo, because he keeps it in play off the tee, and then he can kind of get dialed in on those second shots. To me, he will go as far as that putter allows him to. And the putter, outside of a horrible Travelers Championship, has generally been average to above average this year. And that is about as good of a compliment as you can give Siwoo Kim historically.
Yeah, I agree. Again, at 9,000, it just seems like a lot of people are going to grab it. And by the way, when I mentioned people are going to start their lineup with Henley and Siwoo, and again, I'm not saying everybody's going to do that, but just so you know, if you were to do that, and I think those are going to be the first 2 buttons that people click, it leaves you with 7,700. That's a lot when you consider there's a ton of talent in the 7K range. And by the way, we're going to get to the 8K range in a little bit, because I know there's still 9K guys to talk about, but go ahead and throw Denny in there. It leaves you with 73, 75.
That will be the most popular start. It'll be
100%.
Russell, Siwoo, Denny. That might only pop up in like 2% of lineups or something like that, but that'll be the most popular starting combination.
Easily. And for the record, if you wanted to like go to Rye or you wanted to go up to Jaeger, it still leaves you with around 7,300. And the reason why that's so important is because in the 7K flat to like 7,500 range, which is exactly where you'd flirt with if you took any of those 3 guys, there's at least 15 to 16 guys I'd play just in that range, and I'd feel pretty confident about it. So I think that's where people are going to live. A 10K guy, it might not be Henley, but largely it'll be that 10K comfortable guy, 9K Siwoo Kim, high 8K guy, and then let me just decide which one of these 3 7K guys I want.
JT Poston is here at $9,200. That's the other one that I'm pretty comfortable with, right? I mean, he's been playing phenomenal golf, 6th, 41st, runner-up finish last week. I do worry about his reliance on the flat stick, but that's kind of part of his DNA. He's won here in the past. He finished 21st last year. JT is he has found something right now.
Yeah, and I feel like I've sort of fell asleep on the JT Poston experience. Like last week when he was playing, or just a few days ago when he was playing so well, I was just sort of out on him, and I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe it's because of the off the tee stuff, but he certainly seems like it certainly seems like when you're focused on, when I'm focused on approach and putting, like he seems like a pretty good candidate. The only thing that would have me stray away from him is if people just say, "Hey, I like posting too," and I just think this is a tournament that you should really be focused on in your tournaments, like pivoting to the guy that's 5 or 6% lower than like a JT Poston, because there's going to be plenty of guys like that should succeed on this course.
The rest of the 9K range is questionable at best. Adam Scott had a runner-up finish here a couple of years ago. I think he was in that, if you remember, it was like a 6-way playoff in which Kevin Kisner ended up winning. It was that year where he was in the playoffs. Shane Lowry's been fine. And then we've got the Justin Thomas situation lurking at $9,100. Another missed cut last week. Now 5 of 7 for JT. A history around this place that includes his first career PGA Tour start 14 years ago, in which he made the cut and finished T78. Hasn't played it since 2016. Probably a couple of reasons why he doesn't play this. Sia, he doesn't have to, and he probably doesn't think it fits his game all that well. Man, I wish nothing but the best for Justin Thomas, but I honestly think long term, it is best if he misses the cut, does not make the playoffs, and can take like 6 weeks to reset.
Oh, I totally agree. And there's no evidence. There's nothing that we're seeing here that offers a glimmer of hope, whether it's with the short game or with the ball striking. I mean, the ball striking, like if you go back 36, 40 rounds, like it's, there are some glimpses there for sure, but the guy's just right now, he just doesn't seem like he has any confidence. He just seems like he's got like a ton of weight on his shoulders because it's piling on. It's a snowball effect. And I think you're right. I think a reset, like for however long until, next season, is probably in store. And I expect him to bounce back when that happens.
Yeah. What's crazy is if he took 6 weeks off or whatever that ends up being, I'll bet him the first week back. Right. Yeah. Like I'll happily be early, because I don't think this is something that is going to linger for a long time, but he needs time off. He has had to play. It is not working right now. So as much as I wish him success, and also the other thing is, I haven't looked up the numbers, but I was kind of looking at it last night. He needs something. He needs literal contention to make the playoffs, like maybe 17th or better, if not something closer to the top 10. And that feels so far away.
And it's funny when you say it like that, because this field, if we were talking last year, it'd be almost a surprise if JT is not like top 17. I mean, that's how far we've come, where it's like, I just don't think he can top 20 this thing. Like, that's an astounding commentary on the state of his game.
Let's continue this conversation for the 8K range, the 7s and the 6s. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
When you're the FedEx Cup champion, your name's on this trophy forever.
This is our season-long race. This is the sought-after trophy when we tee it up, the first event of the season that you think about.
Three tournaments with the world's best golfers battling for the tour's toughest trophy to win, the FedEx Cup. The playoffs begin August 12th on CBS.
And we're back. The $8,000 range features 5 golfers who finished top 30 or better last week, the 3M Open. Steven Yeager, 8,900. Cam Davis, Denny McCarthy, Aaron Rai. Keith Mitchell is actually just withdrawn, so you can skip his name. Benyon, Bo Hostler, Chris Kirk, Adam Hadwin, and Alex Smalley. Sia, what do you want to do here?
I really like this range. I'll tell everybody, I'm going to make lineups that actually start in this range, and I'm not going to be shy about it, because I think guys like Steven Yeager, Denny McCarthy, Aaron Rai, even Alex Smalley at 8,100, I think all of these guys have win equity here. Particularly, I would go to Denny and believe it or not, Smalley, who I think his odds are in the 70-1 range. I think those 4 guys that I mentioned are real solid. Denny McCarthy probably going to be popular, so just for the record, I have no issue pivoting off of him, but obviously we're looking for hot putters, and he certainly checks that box. What's interesting is if you look at what he did at the Open Championship, do you know how many strokes he lost ball striking at the Open Championship?
Yes,
you're looking at it now. Sorry.
It was up on the screen. I cheated. Yeah.
But whatever. It's by the way, for everybody that's not watching us on YouTube, shame on you, but it's over 11 strokes ball striking, which is just like unbelievable. Whatever. The point is the approach and the putting, other than that, look good to me. And he certainly has win equity, in my opinion. So, of those four guys, like I'm happy to pivot off of him if he's popular, but I do like him.
He was going to get exposed that we're a Liverpool. We knew that.
Yeah.
Like we knew he was going to get exposed there. How about this? Denny McCarthy. So he is 85, I believe, $8,700. Last 36 rounds, even with that Open Championship debacle, he's the best player in this field. Like there's a really strong case to be made. He's mispriced. 1.53 strokes gained per round. He is having a better season than just about anybody else in this field. It is kind of a shocking, disrespectful number. And I know it's being driven by his outright number, but this is too low. He's also got a good history around Sedgefield. It's not like he gets exposed around this place either. I mean, he missed the cut last year, but he went 15th, 9th, 22nd, 36th the years prior. This is a shocking misprice, and it's why he'll be in the vast majority of builds.
The one pushback I'll give is, and it's so tough because the Open Championship is really skewing the numbers in a huge way. I was going to say that his weighted approach numbers don't look like amazing, but I'm trying to think of what that would look like if you took out the 7.71 that he lost at the Open Championship. There's still some spots where he's not exactly consistent with his approach game. So, I mean, I think that's where, if you wanted to find a criticism, that might be where it is. And that's why I'm happy to pivot up to Steven Jaeger, who has been so awesome, or down to Aaron Rye, and even, consider Smalley in that general direction too.
Completely agree on the pivots, right? Steven Jaeger, I mean, the results might as well be Hideki Matsuyama's results, right? Just like a bunch of T11 to T34s, right? Like that level of outcome dating back to Mexico, which was the end of April. The ball striking numbers, great. The putter, very positive. I mean, this is a stat profile, Sia, right? If we ripped the names off of this and we ripped the finishing positions and the salaries and everything else, this would be a very compelling stat profile.
Well, you said it, because I'm actually so curious as to how he can be playing so well. And I know that like the putter's been a problem here and there, not much. I mean, he's been great with the putter too, but how is he not top 10ing, top 15ing these tournaments? I mean, he's been literally great all around. The ball striking, the putting, insane. Like, and by the way, he's relatively accurate. He's not super accurate, but he's relatively accurate in this field. So he checks that box too. I don't know how this guy hasn't at least had more top fives, which makes him all the more compelling because it kind of looks like he's due.
Yeah, the Aaron Rye conversation is also pretty good because he is so in the consistency that Jaeger offers, Rye contrasts that with kind of the high risk, high reward aspect of things. He misses a handful of cuts, but he has legit, T3, T9 upside. That's RBC Canadian Open, Rocket Mortgage. He can gain 6, 7, 8 strokes on approach. He's done each one of those over his last 7 starts. You look at the skill set and his ability to drive it and keep it in play. He's one of the most accurate drivers on the PGA Tour, 5th in accuracy, 11th in distance from edge of fairway. This is a very good course fit for Aaron Rye, next to who is seemingly going to be an incredibly popular Denny McCarthy.
Yeah, and I do think some ownership will end up trickling to Aaron Rye as well, especially with Keith Mitchell out. So I think, Ben on might pick up a little bit, but I think, when people consider, first of all, you can play Denny and one of these guys in the same lineup very, very easily. So you're going to have Denny lineups with Aaron Rye. You're going to have Denny lineups with Steven Jaeger. All of that makes a ton of sense. But I will say, you've got it on Alex Smalley here. This stat profile is pretty awesome. I mean, obviously his history here has been good as well, the 2 times he's played, but I mean, this ball striking is insane.
It's insane. And I've probably said this a million times over the past couple of weeks. If you're playing great golf and you go overseas to play the Scottish Open or the Open and you kind of get your butt kicked, I don't care. Right. Like I can give you an absolute pass on playing a completely different style of golf, getting your butt kicked, and now coming back. Like we just watched Doug Gim do it. Doug Gim, who is in this field, and I think he's in the $7,000 range, so we could talk about him eventually.
7,200.
But like he misses the cut at the Scottish. He's playing great, misses the cut at the Scottish Open, pretty ugly fashion, gets right back to a TPC and picks up right where he left off. Like this happens a lot more frequently than I think people want to think. Like I do not put any weight on unless your name is Shane Lowry, Jordan Spieth, what are these link style specialists? I do not care if you miss the cut at the Scottish or the Open.
Totally agree. Another reason to like Alex Smalley, because again, he's actually pairing his ball striking and his putting is up and down, but it's nothing egregious either way. So, I mean, to me, he's like kind of like a flat putter with some ability to spike, but the ball striking and the short game are matching his finishing positions. Like we saw, what was it, T2 or second place by himself at the John Deere Classic. But even prior to that, a T9 at the Travelers, a T25 at the RBC Canadian Open. I mean, these are all tournaments that happened in June or later. This guy is hot, and I just don't think enough people are recognizing it. I honestly think at 8,100, you could have put him at, like, I'm looking at like where Ben On is or where Keith Mitchell is. You could have put Alex Smalley up there. You're certainly getting value on him. I think he'll get some ownership because nobody's going to do modeling and ignore what they're seeing with the ball striking with him. So we'll have to just kind of wait and see on that. But I don't think he'll be egregiously owned by any stretch.
Yeah, fire up the Alex Smalley hometown narratives, right? He went to Duke. That's 54 miles from Greensboro. Everybody's going to get all hot and bothered by that. But Alex Smalley is playing great golf right now. 7K range starts with Gary Woodland, Patrick Rogers. The middle is a couple of disappointing miscuts from last week in Glover, Hubbard, Pendrith, and it ends at the bottom of this range, flat $7,000 with the likes of Chad Ramey, Kevin Yu, MJ Duffy. How do we want to allocate our funds here in this range, Sia?
This is such a good range. And I agree in the comments with Eric Fletcher. I think I might have even said it earlier. The pricing on this slate seems kind of weird. And listen, like you can't put everybody in the 8K range. Like you have to have everybody slotted, obviously, to some pricing category. But, there's so many guys I like. I'll start with a guy that I like, but I'm not so sure about. And it's because of his off the tee issues. Eric Cole at 7,700, elite putter, elite approach play. Like those are boxes I want to check. And to the extent he's inaccurate, the thing about Cole is like clubbing down isn't necessarily like a thing for him because he's not long as it is. And we talked about this last week too. So it's just one of those things where can Eric Cole find the fairways? If he can, he'll be dialed in. But to me, because he's going to be a popular name and because there's so many other guys I like right near him, by the way, and also in the low 7K range, I'm not so sure I'll get around to him.
Eric Cole is short and crooked, which is not great, but he makes a ton of birdies. So the two things that really did correlate well were like call it accuracy and scoring, right? The ability to kind of pile up birdies. The other thing to consider is these are larger than average greens in terms of size. The 3-putt rates go up when that happens. He never 3-putts. His 3-putt avoidance is great. So I want to get there on Eric Cole. I am worried about the off the tee stuff, but other than that, I think it's pretty solid. Where else can we go in the 7K range?
Well, one of your guys is a pivot off of Eric Cole. I mean, I don't think Eric Cole is going to be extremely popular, but this guy will be lower owned. It's a guy I never play. I don't think I've ever played him, honestly. Thomas Dietrich. I like him this week, and it's because I think he is going to club down, and I think he is. Well, this is like such a tournament play. I think people are going to largely be afraid of him because of the inaccuracy. But if he does club down, and if he keeps it in the fairway, we just talked about Cole and great putting and great approach play. Like, isn't Dietrich that guy too?
Dietrich's very good. Dietrich does not get kind of the respect that he should. He's having a great season. Yeah, it's not a bad call. Last time we saw him was the Open, and he finished T13. He gained basically across the board. I mean, he's a global golfer who plays well all over the place. I don't mind that, and no one's going to play him.
Right. Yeah. I can't imagine he's going to pick up much ownership. Rick, I have like literally 7 or 8 names that I've bold-faced here. I don't know what to do.
All right. Let me fire up Brendan Todd.
Okay.
7,400. If you like accuracy, you like the ability to make birdies, you like a little bit of course history, check. Brendan Todd. He hasn't been awesome as of late, but he had that runner-up finish at John Deere. I'm okay with that. Where do you want to go next?
Lucas Glover at 7,500. I was all over him last week. That obviously did not work out. And for the record, his ball striking has regressed and the putting has regressed from that torrid stretch, a few weeks back, a few tournaments back, but it's not bad either. This is one of those things where I think he can sort of regain the form both with the ball striking and with the putter. So, I mean, at 7,500, he seems like a pretty great course fit.
This is about as good of a miscut as you could have at the 3M Open. You know, you gain a half a stroke to the field, you miss the cut on the number, you gain 2.5 strokes. Ball striking, you're putting better now, and the only issue you've ever had at Sedgefield is the putter. I mean, he lost 10 strokes putting one year in 2014 in 2 rounds. Like, that's nearly impossible. So maybe can he marry a little bit of that historic great ball striking with the newfound putter? Maybe. Not a bad miscut, all things considered. Okay, how about well, I kind of already mentioned him. Doug Gehman is here. So I already showed his stat profile. He picked up right where he left off after that miscut. This is such a Doug Gehman golf course.
Yeah, and I was worried because he was like, there were a lot of guys I was really invested in last week, and Doug Gehman, what I mean is my player pool was very concentrated, and Doug Gehman was one of those guys. And that first round did not look very good. It looked like he was going to miss the cut pretty easily.
He went nuts on Friday.
He went in 8 under par. And it's just one of those things where it's like, that's the progression in his game I want to see. Like, to go 8 under par, you got to dial in everywhere, including with the putter, which has typically been, not lately, but typically been an issue with him. So yeah, I think at 7,200, he's a pretty good bargain. Again, that's another guy, just like Eric mentioned in the chat, this guy could have been 7,500. And the savings don't really matter this week, but I just think it's interesting that Doug Gehman's not 7,400, that he's not 7,500 or something like that.
All right, keep going. What else we got?
Okay, I'm going to give you 2 guys that I think can win your tournaments for you.
Okay.
And they're 7,400 and 7,300. I almost kind of want to play. Do you want to guess?
7,400 and 7,300?
Yeah.
Schenk?
Yes.
Okay.
And?
7,300 would be, ooh.
Yeah, that's the one.
Højgaard?
Yeah. I don't know how you did that. That's amazing.
I don't know how I did it either, but I could just sense it. I
think Schenk can win this tournament. I truly think, first of all, we've seen him down the stretch of tournaments play really well. He had that unfortunate loss earlier in the year, but to me, he checks all the boxes. He's relatively accurate off the tee. He can dial in on approach, and he can dial in with the putter. Like, what are we missing here with Adam Schenk at 70-1?
So this actually feels, time is weird with Adam Schenk because I think his wife had a baby somewhere during this stretch. So I think he took some time off, and he hasn't been popping up at like the bigger events. So he has a runner-up, a T7, another 7th, and a 4th, all in his last 7 starts. But that feels like it is spread out over a long time, or I don't remember it, but it's not really. It just dates back to Colonial, which was the end of May. The stat profile is very good. Again, I do not care about getting your butt kicked at the Open. I do not care whatsoever. And he can get hot with the putter, like you said. This is a pretty darn good $7,400 stat profile.
That's the thing. It's like obviously he's either going to top 10 or he's going to miss the cut, but that's exactly what you're looking for in your tournament. Either your tournament's going to be complete trash because Adam Schenk is one of the guys that missed the cut for you, or you're going to have a $7,400 guy that's contending in the actual tournament. And in this field, it's much like the Lee Hodges conversation we had last week. Like guys and Schenk has really proven it more than Lee Hodges has, by the way. Schenk is one of those guys that he can get hot. And when he gets hot, especially on a scoring course, I think he's a guy that I'm going to be jamming in a lot of lineups. And if he misses the cut, okay, that's fine. But I know if he doesn't miss the cut, he's got a chance to ship a tournament for me.
Here's Nikolai's stat profile. It was gained on approach and multiple strokes on approach in basically 5 straight. The short game's generally quite positive, can kind of go a couple strokes in either direction. This is somebody else that you pointed out, Sia.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys in the Thomas Dietrich mold where he's not super accurate off the tee. I think he's pretty long, but not super accurate off the tee. And I just what I don't want to do is put an X on those guys, because I do think there's going to be an opportunity for guys like Højgaard or Dietrich to club down and just keep it in the fairway and be super comfortable. And if that is the case, then because they're so dialed in, those 2 guys in particular, so dialed in on approach and with the putter, it seems to me like they're pretty good plays if most people are going to ignore them because of the accuracy issues.
I will point out, I'll just show the Nicholas Lindheim stat profile, because if people are just sorting by raw strokes gained, he's going to pop up a lot because he's got his last 5 are T8, T8, T27, third, and a win on the Corn Ferry Tour. He missed a ton of time with a back injury. So he only has 5 starts in 2023, and those are the 5. So the win, though, Sia, was just 2 weeks ago. I don't know. This is quite high risk, high reward, in my opinion, just because of kind of the nature of the injury and the finishes and what a small sample size it is. But I thought it was worth pointing out because if people sort this by just raw strokes gained, they're going to be like, who in the world is Nicholas Lindheim and how did he get here?
That's what I did when I started my research last night. I was like, man, Lindheim. So I had to look at it. And then I realized he's kind of he's been a monster on the Corn Ferry Tour. Now, granted, the sample size there isn't great either in terms of like his really elite play, but it's weird though that his price is what it is just because he's such an unknown. I'm just surprised he's not in the 6K range. But no, he's interesting. I don't think I'm going to get to him, but he definitely crossed my mind.
Yeah, he shut it down for like 5 months, I think, in the fall. And I don't know if he had back surgery or he had something done. And now he's finally just coming back and he's like taking it easy and he's like winning golf tournaments. So it's the whole thing's bizarre. It's bizarre. I have no idea what to expect out of him, but I thought it was worth pointing out. Anybody else in the 7s?
I'll just mention a few names. Ben Griffin, your guy. I know you've mentioned him quite a bit lately. And I think he mentioned this like literally weeks ago that he's sort of found something. And it looks like he's sort of found something, particularly on approach, where he's gained 9 in a row. The putter very good too. History here is pretty good for Ben Griffin at 7,200. I think some people are going to be landing on him, not in a way where he's going to be super popular, but it's justified for Ben Griffin. Let's do 3 other names. Chez Reavie. Listen, like if he's dialed in on approach and if the putter is great, which it tends to be lately, you're going to be okay with Chez Reavie, who's going to keep it in the fairway. The last 2 names, just as kind of like dart throws, which I don't think you need to go to the flat 7K range because the low 7K range is so rich at 7,100 and above. But Chesson Hadley has my interest, and so does Chad Ramey, who, if you remember last week, was the only 6K guy that I liked at 6,900. And he wasn't amazing, but I think he ended up 53rd, made the cut obviously pretty easily. So he's ball striking has been up and down, but he's made 6 cuts in a row.
Yeah, he's made 6 cuts in a row and he's made like 10 of 12, which I remember being totally shocked when I saw that Ramey has made that many cuts. The other one was Sung-Yul No. Is he back in this field? No, I guess he's not. But I think he made the cut again last week, didn't he? Remember he was like $6,100 and he had made like some outrageous number of, he did make the cut again last week.
Wow.
He hasn't missed a cut since Honda. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 10 in a row. He was $6,100 last week. He's not even in the field this week. So I guess we don't have to waste our time on him. But the 6K range, Sia, the true value golfers, Callum Tarrant, Cam Champ, David Lipsky, Davis Thompson, Dylan Wu, amongst others at the top at 6,900. The middle is like Ryan Moore, Trevor Cohn, Trey Molinak, Zach Blair type situation. And the min-priced golfers include Brian Gay. Davis Love III withdrew, so I'll remove him. Don't play him. Nick Watney, Trevor Werbelow. What do you want to do down here at the bottom of the board?
Yeah, there's a lot of names I like here. The problem is the way I'm building my lineups and fading a lot of the top. I just don't feel the need to mess around in the 6K range. With that said, I think there's a lot like, okay, Matt Wallace at 6,900, I think is at least interesting because the ball striking is sneaking back into form. It's not great by any means because he's in the 6K range. That makes sense, right? But I think Wallace is interesting. Peter Quest at 6,800. I think he's really interesting because I think he can flail, sure. But I also think he's a guy that could easily top 30 this tournament if the ball striking and the putting can spike like they have been lately.
He's just raw strokes gained last 36 rounds. If you sort everybody in the 6K range by best to worst, it's Dylan Wu 1, Peter Quest 2. And the one miscut over his last 7 starts, that's all it's been. The rest, positive stuff. I agree. I think it is reasonable to be excited about Peter Quest in this range.
Mm-hmm. And another young gun that, I've been on. I mean, I feel like with Carson Young, I feel like I'm not sure if we're like having the Hank Lebioda experience from a couple of years ago where I was like all over him and then all of a sudden he like fell off.
Did you see he just Monday qualified in?
No way.
He's in.
I'm playing him.
I'm
going to play him in at least one lineup. Just
Wesley Bryan got in, nice. Couple others, but yes. Hank Lebioda's in. Carson Young, I don't know. I love the guy. I think it's an interesting profile because he can be so good.
Yeah.
Right. Which is exciting, but he can be so, I mean, there's a reason he is 60, whatever, you know, he lives in the $6,000 range and he puts up a lot of different finishes from T14 to miscut. That is the nature of kind of the bottom of the PGA Tour or of these fields. And it's painful sometimes. And other times you look like a genius.
Yeah, and I've noticed as of late, it's been either a poor putter, which is unusual for him because his putter was on fire.
Very good putter, yeah.
Yeah, it's either been a poor putter or just like, some questionable ball striking, but the ball striking hasn't actually been that bad overall, even in his poor streak. So if the putting rebounds, which we know it can, right? At least I think it can. I think Carson Young in the 6K range, I think he's probably the guy I have the most confidence with. If I just wanted to name a few more names again, I don't think you need to go down this range, but if you want to get crazy, you can. I think David Lingmerth and Zach Blair are interesting. Good course fits. We know Blair was really great last week.
He's playing better. So I think he had one other finish too recently. Okay, yeah, he had the runner-up finish at Travelers. That's what I was thinking of. Missed 3 straight cuts, then had the great finish, the T13 last week. Again, that's kind of what you're going to get. But if you look through this profile, there's probably not a lot of guys in this range that have the capability of missing 2 cuts in a row and then snapping off a T10, missing 2 cuts in a row, runner up finish, 3 cuts in a row, T13. So yes, super high risk, high reward. If you started ranking the golf courses in which are better spots than not for Zach Blair, we would certainly be on the better side of things here at Sedgefield.
Yeah, I think the upside is there if he can actually make a cut. Because I was going to mention guys like Jim Herman, who's done well here, of course. Richard Winsky, who's done well here. I just don't know that even with their good history, they're 6,200, by the way. I don't know that I could justify that because I don't think their upside is there even if they make the cut. Whereas I think with Zach Blair, Carson Young, Peter Quest, even Matt Wallace, I think the upside is potentially there.
I will whisper this one. And I haven't uttered his name in quite some time. Doc Redman. It has been a bad 18 months for Doc. He'll be the first to tell you that. So the bar is incredibly low. But T19 at the Barbasol, where he gained 3 strokes ball striking. T30 at Twin Cities, where he gained 2.5. Historically, golf courses that are like narrow, and he can kind of he'll probably pull driver a lot more than he should, which will either allow him to separate from the field or not. This would be a good spot for him. And I think he's got decent history around here. Let's see. T3 in 2020, T21 in 2022. He missed 3 other cuts, but historically, again, very tempered expectations. This might be a one moment in time to get access to Doc Red.
Yeah, I mean, T21 in 2022, it actually kind of tells me something because even back then, I mean, he hasn't been good for a couple of years now. The ball striking's been lost.
It's been bad. It's been bad for basically all. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Honestly, this sounds bad. I don't even know how he has his tour card. He's been bad. He was bad for all of 2021. He was bad for basically all of 2022, and now like most of 2023. I don't even know how he has his tour card, to be honest with you.
There was a stretch that you just scrolled through in 2021. I mean, this guy was like a classic ball striker, like approach off the tee, like he was keeping it in this was the course for him. It doesn't seem to be anymore any course.
Correct. Yes. So it was nice to see him because that T30, I think he was actually, there was a moment where he was like T8 on the weekend, and it was nice to see some meaningful shots being hit on PGA Tour Live. It was nice. We haven't seen it in a while. Anybody else?
I don't think I'm going to go to Dylan Wu at 6,900. He's been our guy, my guy, but I don't know. I just think he's one of those guys that's kind of boom or bust too, but I anticipate him sort of letting people down this week.
He just had the single best putting performance of the year by any golfer of the season.
Wow. I didn't know that.
You don't chase that. You wait a week or whatever. I don't even know what his FedEx Cup position is, but you wait and you catch Dylan Wu next time. You don't chase the T5 coming off the absolute nuts putting performance of this season.
I will say this though, because he did gain ball striking, and he did lose almost 3.5 strokes around the green. So you can kind of even that out if the ball striking is somewhat the same, and you take the around the green strokes away, and just try to like level that short game out a little bit. He still probably would have been like T25 or something last week.
Sure.
But yeah, you don't chase that money.
Yeah. All right. Let us do the narratives. So I believe we have 5 submissions. These are the strokes gain narrative lineups where you, the users, submit lineups based on any narrative that you want. You submit them on Twitter. You use the hashtag SG narrative. You should obviously tag Sia and the first cut so that we can get them. And Troy has already thrown the first 2 on the screen. Jason's Garage Gym says the Wyndham Championship. These are some hotel room complaints. Obviously, Sia, because Wyndham hotels.
That's right. This is clever. This is like, I feel like the ideas are getting more clever, as you'll see with PGA Touts next.
As you'll notice with anything, Sia, when you start putting a spotlight on it, when you start, or in other situations, start putting money into something, we're not putting money into strokes gain narratives, but it forces the competition, everyone, to get better, right? It's like pickleball. You invest like $50 million in professional pickleball, and all of a sudden you've got like the greatest athletes in the world playing pickleball.
Do you play pickleball, Rick?
Dude, we tried to play pickleball one time, and we drove to like 5 different courts in Vegas and could not even sniff a spot. I can't be a part of that.
Rick, you got to use some of that RRG money and build one in your backyard.
Do they have, this is going to sound bad. Do they have pickleball country clubs? Like, could I join a pickleball club?
You know what's so great about that? That is a brilliant idea. I'm sure country clubs are probably incorporating that right now. You got to start your own though. Corner the market.
Rick Picklegood.
Well, we'll work on that part, Rick. But it's Vegas, it's hot. People want to play pickleball indoor. It can happen.
There you go. Hotel room complaints. Grayson, cigarette smoke. Stuart, hair in the sink. Sam, rug burns. Ooh, ouch. Andrew, no vacuuming of the room. Hate that. Justin, can't lower the thermostat. And Russell, stranger knocks on your door. If a stranger knocked on your door, Sia, would you answer it?
I would probably speak through the door and make sure that like they were actually trying to come to my room.
I would go, shh, be quiet.
Like Halloween.
Like we are not in here at all. Like I would hate that. I would absolutely hate that. John at PGA Tout says Wyndham week is a week for bombs. Oh, okay. Rob Oppenheimer. See,
topical.
Yes, quite. The Jim Her Manhattan Project. Oh, we're getting a little bit of a history lesson. How about the Adam ATOM Hadwin? Adam Bomb Hadwin. Adam. Oh man, hold on. Adam Hydrogen Bomb. The Dylan Wooklier Bomb. And of course, my favorite, the Steven Yagabomb. Nice.
That's excellent.
How is that the second one? Do you subconsciously rank these?
No, so I don't actually, but I always make sure to put John's at not PGA Touts, but I'm sorry, Markowski's. I put him at the end because it's always great. But honestly, I probably should have made sure that Troy knew to put this one last. I just send them and we go from there.
That was, and I have not seen the other 3 yet. I know there's another slide with 3 more. That's pretty elite.
There was somebody on Twitter who said, you see the 15 likes here, which is a lot for like this thread. Somebody said this was the best SG narrative of all time.
It is topical, right? It is. I did not even realize there were that many types of bombs,
right.
Admittedly. And the way that he was able to get in perfectly the player names. The only thing I'd have to check is if it's under $50,000, and I'm sure it is with Rob Oppenheim, Jim Herman, like Dylan Wu. I'm sure it fits. So it checks off all the boxes. Yeah. This is quite elite.
Side note, I think PJ, like I know John, I'm sure Rick, you know John too. He predicted the winner of the Wyndham like 2 years ago. It was like some long shot that he was like really adamant. I can't remember who it was. We could obviously just check, but the point is, he thinks Adam Hadwin is winning the Wyndham this year. I know that for a fact because he tweeted it out.
Oof. That would be an Adam bomb Hadwin. Okay. Next, please, Troy. Thank you kindly. Ryan, the fantasy bunker, says, "Oh, Greensboro is the third most populous city in North Carolina." Yikes. And a few other cities ranking third in their respective states. This took a little bit of research.
A lot of it.
Augusta, Nunez. That would be Augusto and Augusta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Bowling Green, Hostler. Bo Hostler and Bowling Green, Ohio? Where is that?
Yeah, that's right. Bowling Green, Ohio.
Ches, Shreveport. So that would be Shreveport, Louisiana. Ches Reavy, right? Am I doing okay here?
Yep.
Kevin, Bellevue. Kevin, you and Bellevue. I don't know what state that is.
I know there's a Bellevue in Florida, but I don't know if that's the one he's referring to.
There's got to be like way other cities that are popular. It's got to be something else.
Oh yeah, so it's third. So yeah, it's got to be somewhere else. Yeah.
Right. James, Honolulu. Perfect. How can that be the third most populous city in the state? We might have to. I hate to do it. I hate to do it, Ryan. You know I love you, bud, but I'm gonna have to do a little investigative report. There is no way there are two cities in Hawaii that are bigger than Honolulu. Someone
in the chat vet this. You got a couple minutes still.
Hawaii cities I'll just do it on the fly. And then Vincent ... Norman, which would be Norman, Oklahoma, I assume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hawaiian cities by population.
That's another excellent one, by the way.
It is very good. I'm gonna have to. That's tough, right? I don't know if that's true. The Model Maniac says last ditch chance to make the Ryder Cup team in Rome. So this is the strokes gained Roman numeral squad. Sungjae I, Sungjae M, Paul Haley 2. That's right. Davis Love the 3rd. Oh, nice. This is Aberg Ludwig. Nice. Norman 5. Vincent and Shay Reavi for 6. Ches Reavy. Nice. Well done. Very, very creative.
That was good.
Bellevue, Washington, suburb of Seattle. That's how.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. I can buy that.
It's Bowling Green, Kentucky, according to Andrew Moser in the chat. There is a Bowling Green in Ohio, of course, but it's not the third most populous city, so it must be.
Yeah. Okay. Well done, Andrew. Also, there is no way Honolulu is the third. It can't be.
James says Honolulu is the most populous city in Hawaii. So
like by far, right? Right. So red X. Sorry, Ryan. Hate to do it to you.
But here's the thing, James, Honolulu is so.
I mean, it's perfect.
So good.
Right. He should have just went with cities. Right. He should have just said, here are some of the most populous cities in their respective states. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but
yeah. Strokes gain narrative gate.
We take this seriously around here.
Mm-hmm.
John Markowski, ever heard of him? Pretty good.
He's the best.
Pretty good. Sedgefield is a, quote, positional golf course. So John has authored other positions. Davis Love, the third baseman. That's cool. I like that. Dylan, Fratelli Vision producer. Oh, that's a nice position to have. Alex, Smalley forward. He would get bodied. It's not a 3. He's not. Marty, downward dog. Oh, that is a position indeed. Shane, Lowry reclined. That's my favorite position.
Mm-hmm.
Feet up. And Justin, supine. or in this case, I guess Justin Supine.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. Wow. I've been giving the nod to Ryan, saying this guy's the up and comer. He's gonna beat up on the GOAT. Better watch out, John. I don't know. A little slip up from Ryan, a little hammer, lay down the hammer from John.
Yeah, but it was PGA Tout that I think won this round.
Yeah, go back, Troy. I actually think I agree with that. The bombs were very good.
And to make it topical too, because I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but I assume that's like the biggest movie going right now, other than like Barbie is a thing apparently.
That's right. That was the biggest opening week. There has not been two movies that opened on the same week that made like at least $50 million each in like a decade. So that was like those two movies. Yeah.
All right. Movies are back, Rick. They're back.
I'm stunned movies are still exist.
Me too.
Movie theaters still exist.
I am 100% stunned.
Stunned. I have not. When's the last time you've been to a movie theater?
So I don't go to movie theaters. However, I have two children, and they hadn't really gone to a movie until like, they're young, like 6 months ago. So I've now gone to two movies exclusively as a result of them.
Okay. All right. I can tell you the last movie I saw was Passengers. That came out in 2016. That was 7 years ago. Before that, it might have been another 7 years. I might have seen one movie in the last 15 years in a theater.
Wow. That's even a lower number than myself.
Yeah. Well, listen, hey, there's a lot of golf to watch on TV.
That's so true.
All right. We will be back Tuesday, mega preview pod, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, round by round recaps for the Wyndham Championship. Big thanks. Producer Troy does all the hard work behind the scenes. Sia Nejad, available on X at Sia Nejad. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.